South Park is back and with an absolute vengeance. Not too long ago, Comedy Central aired the premiere episode of the 27th season of South Park, one of the longest running and most highly acclaimed shows in television history. South Park has pretty much always been a very consistent series overall with its comedy, since basically it's just a social commentary on society overall. They always have plenty of material for the show by just looking at what's going on in the news and finding a way to satirize it. And with this new season and this new episode, they made sure right away to make it very clear what their new target is going to be for this new season, and it's amazing.
I think I know what's happening. I think woke is dead. Woke is dead?
That's right, South Park has now taken direct aim at anti-woke grifters, Trump, and Paramount themselves, the exact studio that funds their projects. Matt and Trey are not afraid at all to bite the hand that feeds them, and it's absolutely amazing. This first episode really didn't hold back at all and offered a lot of biting satire towards anti-woke culture, the growing redundancy of it, the Trump administration and how he sues anything that criticizes him, and also Paramount being a coward. There was a lot of great stuff just in this first episode alone, and it really feels like the show is back in a big way, so I want to talk about it today. South Park is actually one of my favorite TV shows of all time because I think I find the way that Matt and Trey are able to satirize literally anyone and anything and always make it funny really admirable. There's definitely been some episodes that have been better than others over the years, but they've been pretty consistent with their quality of satire in my opinion. They will make fun of anyone and anything, no matter what side of the political spectrum it falls on. And they're really good at it too, and if they get a rise out of someone when they're trolling them, they'll just troll them even more and make even more satire on them. Which, given what happened exactly after this episode came out, there actually might be a case of that going on here, so we'll talk about that. So buckle in and come on down to meet some friends of mine, because we're diving into how South Park's latest episode satirized anti-woke grifters, the Trump administration, and Paramount all in one go. Also, I've been trying to upload this video for the past hour now, and Paramount is really bad when it comes to covering South Park, so if you see any anime girls or anything like that on screen, that's to dodge copyright. Well, so much for fair use. The episode starts with Cartman waking up for the day and finding out that his favorite radio station, NPR, which is his favorite for a reason we'll get into here, has been canceled by the Trump administration.
Oh, sweetie, the president canceled NPR.
What do you mean the president canceled NPR?
And of course, he's very upset after hearing this. Of course, the reason why he liked NPR is because he thought it was funny to make fun of the people on it. And now that it's gone, he doesn't really feel like he has anything to laugh at anymore. And because of this episode actually opens with him going on a huge tangent about how he thinks quote-unquote woke stuff is dying out.
I don't know about you, but I'm worried about what this country's coming to. It seems like everybody's changing, and suddenly woke stuff is off limits. I mean, it's like now everyone rips on the Jews, and it's totally fine, huh, Cal?
Not necessarily because he likes any of that stuff, but because he enjoys being a bigot and trying to make fun of it naturally. But since he sees it dying out, and he actually sees more people acting like him and how he generally acts, he feels like he's not special anymore, and he doesn't feel like he stands out, hence why he wants to bring woke back. As ironic as that might sound. This is actually a very layered joke in a lot of ways, much like most jokes on South Park are. First, this is definitely them taking direct aim at anti-woke grifters and people that make their entire personality complaining about quote-unquote woke stuff. For Cartman in this situation, he's built his entire personality around lambasting or ridiculing anything he considers quote-unquote woke or progressive or whatever, in the exact same vein that anti-woke critics such as Nerdrotic or The Critical Drinker do exactly this as well. Rather than looking at a piece of media with more nuance, like talking about its characterization, storytelling, world building, and things like that, they'd rather call a piece of media quote-unquote woke and lambast it if they see a woman or a person of color or some other minority in it. And really, that's exactly what Cartman is doing here too, and has done for a long time in this show overall. That's kind of what he's meant to represent. Cartman is meant to represent the worst kind of person, someone that makes their entire personality centered around being a bigot or just being controversial or contrarian in general. That's always been his whole thing, and obviously the show does punish him oftentimes for acting like this. But now this attitude is sort of commonplace with how things are, and if anything, quote-unquote woke stuff is dying out in his eyes, so now he doesn't feel very special and doesn't feel like he stands out anymore. Second, this is also used to call out people that took Cartman too seriously and didn't see the satire behind the character and started acting like him in real life. This is actually something that Matt and Trey themselves have commented on before, but South Park has now been around long enough, almost 30 years, for multiple generations to have grown up with it being relevant. And inevitably, there were some members of South Park's audience that grew up too impressionable and couldn't see the satire between Cartman and took him as some kind of role model. And you usually see these kind of people on Twitter saying, oh, Cartman is so based, or just saying blatantly edgy things just for attention, or even some of them grow up to be anti-woke critics on YouTube even.
Shovel your dog shit! F***ing crap! Ideology into everything! Every single...
These people are obviously very easy to make fun of because they couldn't really see the satire behind Cartman and see that he's meant to be the most extreme, bigoted kind of person and someone you technically don't want to be like. As stated before, the show always punishes him for his behavior and he's almost never shown to be in the right throughout the entirety of the series. So I do find it really funny there was a group of people that actually latched onto the character and didn't see the satire behind him, and now South Park is satirizing those people. The irony is absolutely delicious here. These kinds of people have built their entire personality or platform around blasting quote-unquote woke stuff, but now they're starting to run out of quote-unquote woke stuff to talk about. And seeing how Cartman at the start of this episode is now desperate for quote-unquote woke stuff to come back and is feeling miserable with it not being there for him to blast, it shows how shallow this mindset is. And it's really funny to see it satirized here. So now it seems Cartman's last hope for quote-unquote wokeness out there is PC Principal, who's hosting an assembly meeting here at the school. Cartman hopes there will be at least some semblance of quote-unquote wokeness at this meeting so that he can assure himself there's still wokeness out there for him to make fun of, but inevitably that's not quite what he gets here.
There's some bullcrap going on in this country, and I'm not going to let it corrupt the environment at this school! There's only one thing that can bring some normalcy back to these corrupt times, and that is our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
What?
Yep, it seems PC Principal has switched from being politically correct Principal to being Power Christian Principal, which is hilarious.
In order to turn things around, I'm going to be a Power Christian Principal. You can call me PC Principal.
And of course, this is actually satirizing another kind of grifter too. What Matt and Trey have done here is basically satirize the politically in-demand kind of grifter, as I like to call them. Someone who will cater to whatever popular political belief there is at the time, and if that happens to switch, will immediately move to the next extreme just for profitability and their own benefit. If left-leaning beliefs are in at the time, they'll cater towards that, of course, just for profit, but if right-leaning beliefs start to be popular, they'll lean towards that instead just for their own profit and benefit. And funny enough, that is exactly what PC Principal has become here. This was the guy who was all about quote-unquote wokeness in every other season before. But now, given that's not necessarily in anymore, he's all about Christianity and religion and promoting Jesus in the school. He has switched to the complete opposite end of the spectrum and shifted his entire personality to cater towards that, and it's really funny. As long as he can continue to stay in power at the school and stay profitable, he's more than happy to grip to whatever popular political spectrum is out there currently. This is absolutely a thing in real life, and it's really funny to see it satirized here. The principal really has no backbone at all. So now, after seeing PC Principal even go completely the other way with his beliefs, Cartman feels like there's no hope at all for quote-unquote wokeness to return for him to make fun of. And of course, this causes him to get really depressed because the thing that he built his entire personality on trying to lambast doesn't even exist anymore. And we also see the townspeople of South Park getting upset with Jesus being put in their schools now as well. They're upset with the current president for doing this and also just suing and arresting anyone that criticizes him rather than making the changes that they thought were needed, especially when it came to woke stuff.
A lot of you here voted for him.
Yeah, I voted for him, but all I've seen him do is arrest and sue people. I voted for him to get rid of all the woke stuff, but now that faggot is just putting money in his own pockets.
So they're pretty upset right now, and they go straight to Mr. Garrison's house to tell them they're unelecting him, and then they realize they made a big mistake.
Excuse me, do you mind?
Mr. Garrison is not the president anymore. He's literally just chilling here with his husband and his cute dog. For those unaware, Mr. Garrison technically acted as the show's Trump stand-in for the 2016 season up to 2020. South Park has actually directly satirized every US president since the show started in 1997, but they unfortunately had to use Garrison for the Trump stand-in through 2016 onward, mostly because the writers didn't actually expect Trump to win the election at the time and were goofing around Mr. Garrison leading up to the fact. They had a real version of Hillary in this show since they thought she was gonna win the election, and I imagine they were gonna use her in later seasons. But Trump ended up winning, so they had to go with Mr. Garrison as Trump for the rest of the seasons. But here, he's not the president anymore. Looks like he's just chilling here with his husband and his dog. So who is in office making all the decisions that the South Park citizens are not a fan of?
Mr. President, why are you placing these new tariffs on Canada? What are you, some kind of dictator from the Middle East?
Yep, after initially saying they didn't want to tackle the 2024 election, Matt and Trey have presented us with our first ever full Trump parody here in South Park, and it's glorious. He's very obviously meant to emulate the energy of Saddam Hussein from the South Park movie back in the day, even down to the way they animated him. They just put a cutout of his face that splits open when he talks like a giant Muppet, just like they did for Saddam in that first movie. And he even talks in the same high-pitched, overly cartoony voice. It's absolutely amazing.
Alright, what the hell's the difference? Relax, guy. Sure I do, guy. Please, just hear me out.
I think this was, in a lot of ways, Matt and Trey wanting to emulate the energy of some of the earliest South Park seasons, but I also wonder if Saddam Hussein is meant to come back in this season. Like, perhaps this version of Trump in this show's universe is actually Saddam Hussein in disguise or reincarnated or something. I'm kinda curious to see what they do later. Also, if you'd like to see me cover South Park episodes from later in this season, since there's gonna be a lot of these every Wednesday now, let me know in the comments below. It definitely does look like they have a lot of great stuff cooking up for this season overall, so if you want to see me cover the full thing, let me know down below. But anyway, getting back to it, it looks like this version of Trump is currently in bed with Satan just like Saddam Hussein was in the movie as well. And he's hell-bent on suing anyone and anything that might criticize him and his lack of, endowment, for lack of a better term.
What the f is this, better?
This is the painting you asked for, sir.
Why is my so small?
But that's the size it is in the photo.
Get this guy out of here! I'm gonna sue you! I'm gonna sue both of you!
Wow, Matt and Trey really went full scorched earth here. Meanwhile, Cartman has grown increasingly depressed after seeing the complete lack of quote-unquote wokeness for him to try to blast or make fun of. So now he's come to the conclusion that he should end himself and Butters for some reason.
I'm saying that it's the end, Butters. I'm gonna kill myself. And you.
Man, why you gotta bring Butters into this? He's done nothing wrong. Butters does try to reason with Cartman and assures him that he'll probably come back, but Cartman says if it doesn't come back by Tuesday, he's ending them both. He really feels like there's nothing to his life or personality anymore now that there's no woke stuff for him to make fun of. Watch this be Nerdrotic or The Critical Drinker in like 5 years. Funny enough, you can already start to see this kind of isolation with someone like Heel vs. Babyface, who even a lot of other anti-woke grifters have actually started moving away from. Mostly because he's seen as a lolcow pretty frequently now, and they don't really want to have anything to do with that to not ruin their own reputations. Whoa, you don't want to hang around the guy who threw a temper tantrum about pronouns in Starfield and became the laughingstock of the internet for a while? I wonder why. Meanwhile, while Cartman is getting depressed over being an anti-woke grifter, Stan is getting called out by PC Principal for apparently not accepting Jesus at his lunch table. And it's here, funny enough, where we see PC Principal completely own up to the fact that he's a politically in-demand grifter.
PC Principal?
Power Christian principle, yes.
What happened? Well, you used to be like super woke, and then starting last November, you started acting weird, and now you're super Christian.
I just realized that the side I was on was hopeless.
Like, he straight up admits that he switched sides to the kinds of things he was performing activism for just for his own profit and gain. Absolutely no backbone, but these kind of people do exist in real life, so it's funny to see them parodied here. After this, we see Randy and the townspeople of South Park decide to finally call up Trump and tell him to stop putting Jesus in their schools. Trump, of course, doesn't really care and just tells Randy to relax, guy.
Hey, relax, guy.
Unfortunately, South Park protesting about Jesus being put in their schools doesn't seem to go over very well with Trump, and he ends up threatening to sue them for $5 billion. Jesus. Literally in this case. And funny enough, it's not long after this that we actually start to see the real reason this episode was made. This wasn't just about making fun of anti-woke grifters or making fun of Trump. This was actually about something a lot deeper and a lot more diabolical thanks to a certain personal vendetta that Matt and Trey currently have. So let's get into some of the juiciest parts of the episode here and the stuff that a lot of people are currently talking about. After Trump threatens to sue South Park, the townspeople begin to riot even more, and soon 60 Minutes is actually reporting on this. And the funniest part about this is that 60 Minutes is so terrified they'll get sued by Trump as well if they even show the slightest amount of bias towards South Park.
The small town of South Park, Colorado is protesting against the president. The townspeople claim that the president, who is a great man.
A great man.
Great guy. We know he's probably watching.
So they have to constantly check their wording and to make it very clear that they're not siding with South Park at all, they're just reporting on this whole thing. It's really funny. And that's also here we get a bit more criticism towards the anti-woke grifters.
We all know the woke stuff went too far, but the answer isn't going too far the other way. It's not a bad thing to have a little compassion for people. It's not a bad thing to care a little for the environment.
This part is especially good because, in a lot of ways, the anti-woke grifters are actually just the SJWs of today. Despite claiming they go against SJWs and always call everybody snowflakes, they're honestly no better than that. They get offended at everything all the time. They'll get mad if they see a woman or a person of color or someone of a different sexual orientation in the lead role of any film or game or whatever. They are actually some of the most thin-skinned people out there, and they always complain about everything. It's really ironic, and they totally call that out here. The anti-woke guys are really no different whatsoever. But then, out of the blue, Jesus comes in flying from the sky to come speak to the town of South Park while standing on a hill. Just like the Sermon on the Mount of the times of old, which is actually the name of this episode, funny enough. And it's here it becomes extremely clear exactly what Matt and Trey were trying to do with this episode.
Now just eat the bread and listen. I didn't want to come back and be in the school, but I had to because it was part of a lawsuit and the agreement with Paramount.
President suing you?
The guy can do whatever he wants now that someone backed down, okay? You guys saw what happened to CBS? Yeah, well, guess who owns CBS? Paramount. You really want to end up like Colbert? You guys gotta stop being stupid. Just shut up or we're going to get canceled, you idiots.
This episode wasn't just about making fun of the hypocrisy of anti-woke grifters or making fun of Trump. It was all about giving a giant middle finger to Paramount. And when you know exactly what has been happening to South Park over the last few years, it becomes very, very clear why they did this. To understand this episode, a bit of context is needed on the current lawsuit going on between Warner Brothers, Paramount, and South Park. Or rather, the lawsuit that just ended only for another lawsuit to take its place. Sometime in 2024, South Park was actually caught up in a lawsuit between Warner Brothers and Paramount over who had the rights to stream South Park on their streaming service. At the time, Warner Brothers technically had the rights to stream South Park on Max because they'd paid $500 million for that back in 2019. However, when Paramount was setting up their own streaming service, Paramount Plus, they realized that South Park was actually a really big asset to them, and it would be really beneficial to have that back to stream on Paramount Plus, since it would bring in a lot of new subscribers. At the time, Paramount Plus was actually losing the company a lot of money, and go figure, it still is to this day. Since Warner Brothers were currently the ones to have the rights to stream new episodes of South Park, however, Paramount had to find a loophole, which they did by having Matt and Trey create what they called quote-unquote special events for the show. These special events were basically just 45-minute specials that tackled a particular topic, much like any other episode of South Park, but they were just longer. However, given a typical episode of South Park is usually 22 minutes, and these special events, quote-unquote, just so happen to be 45 minutes, it didn't take long for Warner Brothers to figure out that Matt and Trey were just smishing together two episodes to make these special events for Paramount Plus. And of course, they weren't very happy about that, so a very tedious and very long lawsuit started in 2023 that just ended now that puts South Park in limbo for a long time. That's actually why this has technically been the first season of South Park in 2 years now. So naturally, people were really excited to see that the lawsuit had finally been settled and the new episodes were going to be put out on July 9th of this year. But whoa, 3-week delay is here because now Paramount is merging with Skydance Media because they're losing money and they desperately need this merger. So now Matt and Trey are even more ticked off than they were before and just have to sit and basically bite the bullet and wait for this merger to finish so they can release their episodes that they already did. And even more so, the merger with Skydance itself actually directly affected South Park and Matt and Trey's deal with Paramount, since the executives from Skydance came in and directly changed the terms on that deal. So of course, Matt and Trey were pretty ticked off at both Skydance and Paramount around this time and actually threatened to sue Paramount over this. But guess who else was threatening to sue Paramount around this time? You guessed it, Trump. Trump had actually been threatening to sue Paramount for a long time due to an interview of Kamala Harris that was aired on 60 Minutes. And funny enough, it was exactly around this time that the lawsuit from Trump was happening that Paramount was trying to merge with Skydance. However, the merger needed to be approved by the FCC, which is run by the Trump administration. You're probably already beginning to see exactly where this is going. Trump and the FCC refused to let the merger go through until Paramount settled with them, which of course they did. Paramount wound up caving in and also settling for $16 million with Trump. As part of this settlement, they also had to agree to do pro-Trump messaging, which is also something that's satirized exactly in this episode, and we'll dive into that a little more here shortly. Funny enough, not long after this merger was signed and the pro-Trump agreement was also signed, Stephen Colbert on his own talk show ended up criticizing Paramount for doing this. And mysteriously enough, not long after this happened, Stephen Colbert's show was completely canceled. Huh, what a totally funny coincidence that absolutely has nothing to do with everything that was just stated here. No idea why this could have happened, total mystery. So now, knowing about Matt and Trey's anger at Paramount and also Donald Trump's lawsuit of Paramount that resulted in them settling and creating pro-Trump messaging, we see that not too long ago, Matt and Trey basically forced Paramount to give them $1.5 billion if they wanted to stay with them. This happened about a week or two ago, and of course, Paramount went with it because they know that Matt and Trey and South Park are actually really important to their business. In a lot of ways, South Park is actually probably the most important thing that Paramount Plus has on it. Reports that have come out before have actually literally stated that Paramount Plus was basically a dead service until the South Park specials started airing on there. Then they saw a spike in viewership and subscribers. It was actually around the time that Matt and Trey were creating these exclusive special events for Paramount that they were seeing the most business on their streaming service. So this has really shown them that South Park is pretty integral to keeping their business and their company alive in a lot of ways. So they'll do pretty much whatever they can to keep South Park on their platform, even making a record-breaking television deal giving its creators $1.5 billion in their pockets. And all this context is so important to understand what makes this episode so great. With this premiere episode, Matt and Trey have given Paramount a ticking time bomb, given them the middle finger, and said, good luck with that. As stated before, Matt and Trey previously said they weren't gonna bother covering the 2024 election on this new season at all. But after getting screwed over multiple times by Paramount at this point, and also seeing how Paramount has kowtowed to Trump, it seems they've definitely changed their mind. The scene I showed here previously of Jesus talking to the people of South Park is more than likely meant to mirror directly Paramount talking to the people working at the South Park studios. Right now, the worst thing that could happen to Paramount is if they badmouth Trump or have someone on their team do that, especially given he's already threatened to sue them once. And so, what do Matt and Trey decide to do during the downtime they have given the delay of the premiere of the new season of South Park? They make this episode, which has a very cartoonish version of Trump with a very squeaky voice and a very tiny dick. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call rage bait. South Park is directly trying to rage bait Trump into suing Paramount again through this episode. This is Matt and Trey absolutely being able to have their revenge on Paramount while also critiquing Trump's censorship of things going on at Paramount during the Skydance merger. And they're doing this while still making fun of anti-woke grifters and people that suck up to anti-woke culture overall. It's absolutely amazing, and this satire is freaking brilliant here. And funny enough, given the fact that I'm reporting on this episode a few days after it actually aired, I have the benefit of looking at the aftermath here and can say that it's actually started to work. While Trump himself has yet to comment on the episode, the White House already did for him, and funny enough, they fell for Matt and Trey's rage bait. In particular, they said South Park was hanging on by a thread and was a fourth-rate show, and the left's hypocrisy truly has no end. For years, they have come after South Park for what they labeled as offensive content, but suddenly they are praising the show. Just like the creators of South Park, the left has no authentic original content, which is why their popularity continues to hit record lows. Yeah, because Paramount is clearly handing over $1.5 billion to two guys who run a show that is clearly hitting record lows. Totally makes sense there, guys. Also, this was originally posted on the actual White House Twitter account, which I find so funny. The rage bait is real. So really, it does seem like Matt and Trey are actually achieving exactly what they wanted with this episode. While Trump himself hasn't said anything, clearly the White House has been rage baited. So I guess only time will tell to see what develops from this further. And also, South Park has a history of consistently ripping the things that they get a rise out of, like they did to Kanye West and Tom Cruise in the past. So now that they've seen they can get a rise out of the Trump administration, they'll probably continue to rip them more as well, I'd imagine. Which I'm very much looking forward to seeing how the satire for that plays out too. And of course, the anti-woke crowd has been trying to gaslight themselves about the real intentions of this episode, like this cartoon made here. This cartoon actually tries to make it look like Paramount put Matt and Trey up to making this episode, when, if you know all the background here, that's very clearly not the case. The last thing Paramount wants right now is any more scrutiny from the Trump administration, so they would not want an episode like like this made. They didn't order Matt and Trey at all to make an episode about Trump and jokes involving him. Matt and Trey did that on their own during their downtime during the delay of South Park's premiere.
You did the thing all by yourself.
This was a very calculated move on their part to try and get a rise out of Trump and try and get Paramount in trouble. I'm not really sure why this cartoon doesn't seem to get that, but it is kind of funny. And funny enough, an anti-woke critic on YouTube named Yellow Flash also tried the same route of bad faith criticism and trying to mislead people. Specifically, he tries to claim that The Colbert Show was not canceled due to anti-Trump statements, but because it was down in the ratings by comparing it to South Park, which is really ironic.
But to say Trump got this show canceled, easily disprovable, because South Park has went after Trump quite a bit in the past. If you remember, Mr. Garrison was like a Trump stand-in for the longest time.
The thing is, though, like was stated before, Mr. Garrison technically was never meant to be a full Trump stand-in. He was actually supposed to be written off after the election happened and they assumed Hillary would win. But because Trump actually won, Mr. Garrison did actually end up in the Oval Office in the show for about 4 years. But the thing is, this technically wasn't directly satirizing Trump because it was still Mr. Garrison. While Trump actually had directly appeared in 2 episodes before on South Park, even before the Mr. Garrison stuff, he wasn't really satirized in either of them and made super brief appearances. It's really only now that Matt and Trey have actually directly satirized Trump in their attempt to rage bait him and get him mad at Paramount. So really, this just isn't true at all from Yellow Flash here. So it is more than likely that Trump had a hand in the Colbert Show getting canceled, and now South Park is playing directly into that. And funny enough, this entire episode actually ends with a quote-unquote Trump PSA. Funny enough, now after Trump's lawsuit of the town of South Park, which of course is meant to mirror the lawsuit of Paramount at this point in the episode, the town is now settled with Trump and it will pay him $3 million instead of $5 billion, just like how Paramount settled Trump in real life. However, also like Paramount in real life, the town of South Park now is forced to make pro-Trump messaging, which they're not quite sure how to do.
Okay, we settled. As part of the settlement, we also had to agree to doing pro-Trump messaging.
How are we supposed to do pro-Trump messaging?
Oh, come on, guys. We're South Park. We can do it.
This episode actually ends with perhaps the most shocking part of all, where a deep-faked version of Trump is stumbling through the desert, where he ends up undressing and his tiny penis sticks out and says, "I support Trump and you should too." If that isn't meant to directly rage bait Trump, then I don't know what is. Overall, I really like this episode. I think it's absolutely brilliant, and I really commend Matt and Trey for getting the upper hand on Paramount, especially after getting screwed over so many times by them. It seems the reception to this episode has also been pretty largely positive, with a lot of people discussing it overall. I'm very curious to see now what this whole season has in store, and of course I'll be catching the next episode on Wednesday, and if you want me to cover that here on the channel, leave a comment down below. But regardless, I'm just really glad we finally have new South Park after all these different setbacks. This episode masterfully ripped on anti-woke grifters, the Trump administration, and Paramount all in one go, and it was really great. I'm really looking forward to the rest of this season, and I hope Matt and Trey are able to make many more episodes of South Park for many years to come, as long as they're willing, of course. And if this season premiere is anything to go by, it's very clear they still have a lot of energy left in the tank. But what do you think? Did you like this new episode, or did you find it boring or lackluster? And do you plan on catching the next episode when it premieres on Wednesday? Let me know in the comments below. But regardless, thank you very much for coming to the end of this video, and I hope you liked it or learned something new from it. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a like, and make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I do plenty of videos like this covering different film and animation topics overall, so if you enjoyed this video, you'll probably enjoy the others I have planned as well. If you have a suggestion for something you think I should cover here on the channel, leave a comment down below, or consider joining my Discord. We have a suggestions and questions channel there where you can reach out directly, or just hang out with a bunch of like-minded people overall. Lots of fellow film and animation fans there for you to discuss with in general. You can also check out my letterbox to see all the movies and shows that I've watched before. And you can follow me on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, all those things. All the links are down in the description. Special thanks to DGC1996, Trayvon Gibson, Balf Games, You the Guardian, David Deister, and Jared the Rabbit for supporting me on Patreon and YouTube. I appreciate all of you for putting in the extra monetary effort to keep me doing what I do here on YouTube. And thank you very much for coming to the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it. But for now, I've been Otterly Noah, and I'll see you on the other side. Bye!